Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us in today's meeting.
Salut tout le monde, merci de nous avoir joints ce matin.
This program is being held in 3 languages.
Se fait bien sûr en 3 langues. Nous avons le français, nous avons le portugais et l'anglais.
You can access or enable the various languages.
Vous pouvez choisir les options différentes.
The Zoom, so you check at the bottom of the Zoom.
Sur la langue que vous voulez
on the interpretation button.
Alors,
you
vous avez
see
cette
the
option
different
en bas de l'écran
available. Then you
au
can
niveau de l'interprétation.
Which one you are comfortable with. In a minute, we'll be starting this meeting.
Nous allons commencer le programme bientôt.
Once again, if you want to access any of the 3 languages that we are using, you can click on the button down your Zoom where you can see interpretation. So you click on
Alors, si vous voulez choisir la langue que vous voulez, vous pouvez choisir l'option
which one you
bien
are
sûr en bas de votre
comfortable
écran.
whether English, French,
La langue que vous voulez, que vous
Portuguese.
préférez, l'anglais, le français, bien le portugais.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening.
Bonjour, bonsoir.
Wherever you are joining us from, we are happy to welcome
Nous
you
sommes
to
très contents de vous avoir ici.
join us in this conversation.
De nous avoir rejoints dans cette conversation autour du Parlement en Afrique pour parler, discuter
when it comes
issues.
to becoming transparent,
Quand on parle de la transparence,
involving citizens in the work they do,
surtout
and providing opportunities
sur le travail que les citoyens font,
accountable.
afin
Today's
que le
meeting,
Parlement
we are
soit
holding it on the theme, the
responsable.
Africa Open Parlement Index 2022, assessing the impacts,
Alors, aujourd'hui, nous
sharing
parlons
the
du thématique l'indice
and
Parlement ouvert
identifying the
2022,
challenges.
évaluer l'impact, partager les leçons,
Exactly a year
identifier les
ago,
défis.
June
Il y a de cela
2022,
juin
the maiden Africa
2022,
Open Parliament Index
le premier
report
rapport
by the Africa PMO's network, the
de
Africa
l'OPI
Parliamentary Monitoring Organizations Network, APMON.
et les réseaux des organisations de suivi
In this
parlementaire
maiden
d'Afrique.
report, 13 national parliaments were
Dans
assessed
ce
across West
rapport, 3
Africa.
pays de l'Afrique de l'Ouest.
So since the launch of the OPI reports,
Depuis le lancement de ce rapport,
PNAfrica, with support
PNAfrica,
from the
avec le
National
support
Endowment for Democracy, has supported selected
de
national
la Fondation
level
nationale
PMO
pour la
networks,
démocratie, on
who
choisit les
are supposed to work closely with their
Nous
parliaments,
travaillons ensemble avec le Parlement,
create reforms,
créer
and
des
support
réformes,
the parliament
supporter
to
le
implement
Parlement pour
some of
mettre
the
en œuvre les
recommendations or some of the
recommandations,
issues that were identified in
les
the OPI report.
recommandations qui
So
sont
after
dans
all these
le rapport
actions
de
have been
l'OPI.
taken, today we want to know
Aujourd'hui,
or have an understanding of
nous voulons
what the
bien
situation has
comprendre
been
comment est
after
la
the launch of the
situation
reports.
à part
And so
le
the bigger
lancement du
question for
rapport.
us today to
Et donc la
answer
question
is
pour nous
what has
aujourd'hui
changed
est
after
qu'est-ce
the
qui a
OPI
changé après
or
le
the
rapport?
OPI index report was launched. I'm sure you're also aware that
Je suis
today
sûr que
marks the International Day of Parliamentarism,
la journée
a day
internationale
that
du
is going to be
parlementarisme.
commemorated all over the world
Ceci sera
to
commémoré
review
autour
the
du
progress
monde,
that parliaments have made in
parler
achieving
du
some key
progrès que le
goals
Parlement fait
to be
pour
more representative and move with the times, including
être
carrying out
plus représentatif,
self-assessments, working to include more women and young
travailler
MPs,
ensemble pour
and
bien inclure
adapting
beaucoup plus de
new
femmes
technologies.
et aussi adapter
This
aux
even makes
technologies
today's
nouvelles.
event a very important one.
Ce qui
It
fait
gives
ce
us
programme
a
aujourd'hui
good opportunity to
un programme
also
très
know what
important et
parliaments
aussi
in
une
Africa
opportunité pour
are doing to improve their
savoir
systems,
ce que les parlements
of course,
africains
including
font
their procedures and how they are increasing transparency,
et comment
how
ils
they are
augmentent,
involving citizens
il
in the
augmente
work that they are
la
doing and how they
transparence
are promoting
et
accountability
comment est-ce qu'il
to the people.
promouvoit
And so, ladies and gentlemen, once again,
la transparence, j'allais dire,
it's my pleasure to
dans le
welcome you
pays.
to today's meeting.
Alors, c'est mon plaisir
We
de
look
vous
forward
accueillir
to
à ce
having your
programme
contributions and comments.
et
My
aussi
name is Benjamin
avoir vos
Okwaye.
commentaires et vos
I'm
suggestions.
with the Parliamentary Network
Je suis
Africa
Ben Aye, je
as a
suis avec
senior programs
PNAfrica
officer,
et je suis
and I'll be mastering
chargé de
today's
programme principal.
event. Thank you very much once again.
Merci
Welcome.
beaucoup et soyez les bienvenus.
At this point,
À ce
we
moment,
would like to
nous voulons
hear from you. We want to get to know where you are joining in from.
nous voulons savoir
So
là où
we are
vous
going
avez
to
joint.
put a link in the chat box.
Allez, nous
So
allons
you'd
mettre un
have
lien
a
dans la zone de
Mentimeter link
commentaires.
that will be shared in the
Vous
chat
aurez un lien de
box.
Mentimeter qui sera
You would
partagé dans
have
la
an
zone de
accompanying
commentaires
passcode.
et
You would
ce sera
copy
accompagné
the
avec
passcode, click on the link, click
un
on the
code.
Mentimeter link.
Alors,
It
vous
will
cliquez
send
sur
you
le
to
lien
a Mentimeter platform or
et vous
portal
allez bien sûr
where you
sur
can
la plateforme
input
de Mentimeter
passcode,
et vous
and you'll be able to
y
answer
mettez le
a
passcode
simple question for us to
et vous
know where
répondez
you
la
are joining
question,
us from, which country you are joining
la
us
question qui
from
est
in
là.
this meeting. Please kindly check your chat box and
Allez
let's
vérifier la
hear
zone de
from you, or let's see
commentaires.
from you where you are joining us from.
Le lien sera bien sûr
So
partagé
a
dans la zone de
Mentimeter
commentaires.
link would be shared in the chat box. In addition to that, you would have a passcode which will be
Et il
shared.
y aura aussi
You copy the passcode,
un
you
code
click
qui
on
sera
the Mentimeter
partagé.
link to take you to a portal or a website
Alors, vous
where you'll
cliquez
be
sur
able to
le
access
lien et ça va
and
vous
then
amener
input the passcode,
sur un site web
and then
de Mentimeter
you get some question pop up
et
for you to answer and tell us
vous
where you
mettez
are
le
joining us from,
code
from which
et
country
vous aurez une
you are
question
joining
que vous allez
today's
répondre.
meeting
La question
from.
est sur là où
We can do this in a
vous
minute.
nous avez joint, le pays dont vous nous avez joint cet après-midi.
Yeah.
So just to take it again, at this point, we want to hear from you.
Alors,
We want to
maintenant,
know
nous
where you are
voulons
joining us from, which
entendre
country.
vu, nous voulons savoir là où nous
From.
avez
So
joint.
a Mentimeter link
Alors, un
has
lien
been
de
shared in the
Mentimeter a
chat
été
box.
partagé dans la zone de commentaires.
You can access that together
Alors,
with a passcode, which
vous cliquez
has also
sur le
been shared.
lien et ça vous
So
amène
you
sur
copy
un
the
site de
passcode,
Mentimeter et
and
là,
then you
vous
click on the link. It will take you to a Mentimeter platform or portal
vous y
where
mettez
you can input
le code
the
et
passcode.
vous
After
aurez la question.
inputting the passcode, you will have a question that is asking you to tell us where
Question
you are
qui
joining us from, which
qui
country
demande que vous
you are
partagez
joining
le
today's
pays dont
meeting from.
vous avez joint, le pays d'où vous venez.
Hello, everyone.
The technical team is on standby to let us know where our partners are joining in from.
Alors, la partie technique est là pour nous faire savoir là où nos partenaires nous ont joints cet après-midi.
And again, just to reiterate, okay. All right, thank you very much for joining us.
Merci
from
beaucoup de nous avoir
Guinée-Bissau,
joints de la Guinée-Bissau,
Togo,
du Togo,
Argentina,
de l'Argentine,
United States,
des États-Unis d'Amérique,
Morocco,
du
Canada,
Maroc, du Canada,
Benin,
du
Brazil.
Bénin, du
Thank you
Brésil.
very much for
Merci
taking the
beaucoup
time to join us.
de nous avoir joints.
So whilst you are
Alors, en attendant
inputting your country
que
where
vous
you are joining us from, I
mettiez
would
le
like to
nom de vos
reiterate
pays,
that this event is being held in 3 languages.
je vais
And so you just have
ajouter que
to
ce
check the button of your
programme
Zoom.
se fait dans
You
3 langues.
see an interpretation button
Alors,
over
vérifiez en bas de
there. You click on it.
votre
It will give you a
application
list
Zoom en
of
bas
the
de l'écran.
languages that
Vous aurez les options,
we are having this event in.
les 3 options dans
English,
lesquelles ce
you
programme
have
se
French,
fait.
and then you
On a
have
l'anglais,
Portuguese.
le
You can
français
click any of them, any of the 3 that you are comfortable
et le
with,
portugais.
and you would listen in. Thank you very much. At this point, we would like to
En ce moment,
proceed. Thank you all for letting us know where you are joining in
nous vous
from.
remercions
Thank you very much.
d'avoir partagé avec nous les pays desquels vous nous avez joints.
So we'd like to take some remarks. In this journey, we've had a lot of partners who have helped us, who have supported us in this journey. And so we'd like to hear from them. We'd like to hear from some of them. We'll take Caroline Gaita.
De ces personnes,
Madame Caroline Gaita is the chairperson of the Africa Parliamentary Monitoring Organizations Network, APMON. She's the chairperson of the working group and also the executive director of Mzalendo Trust. She's an accomplished strategic leadership and governance specialist. She's a communications and public relations practitioner. And very capable of non-profit directions, and she has over 15 years of experience working with both state and non-state entities. Caroline, if you can hear me, please, can we take your remarks?
Alors, Madame Caroline, est-ce que nous pouvons prendre votre remarque?
Okay, hi Ben. I hope you can hear me clearly.
Je pense que vous pouvez m'entendre clairement.
Okay, Excellent. Greetings from Nairobi, Kenya.
Merci. Salutations
And
du Kenya,
East Africa as a whole. I
de
see
l'Afrique de
that we are
l'Est.
heavily West Africa represented, and so I hope
Je
that
vois
the
qu'il y a beaucoup de
interpretation
représentants de l'Afrique de
services will be
l'Ouest.
clear for everybody. I'm really delighted to
Je suis
join
très
our
content d'être
partners
ici.
PNAfrica
Nous
and
avons
other PMOs from across the
joint
continent
les
as we
partenaires
mark this year's day
d'Afrique
of this year's Parliament Day.
pour célébrer
It's a
la
reminder
journée du
of the steps
parlementarisme
that
de
we
cette année.
continue to take, not just as parliaments, but also as civil society organizations working in the parliamentary space. So I come here on behalf of Mzalendo Trust and also on behalf of the network that Ben has spoken about. Mzalendo works to promote open, inclusive, and accountable parliaments, and so we are really at home as we are having this conversation. So 1 year ago, we met in Accra, Ghana, and we had conversations with partners here, represented in this meeting here, and asked ourselves what it would look like if parliaments across the continent were really open, were really accountable to their citizens, and what are some of the tools that would allow us to measure these openness and accountability and transparency. And I'm really pleased that PNAfrica had already started on that journey and has been able to take the journey. And so I'm looking forward to hear what the reflections are. We also thought that by building a strong community of actors across parliaments, it would help us also push for responsive parliaments that respond to emerging issues. And we know from today's theme, Parliaments for Planet, that there are really a lot of issues that are emerging, not least relating to inequalities that is made worse by climate issues, but also in terms of providing resources, providing legislative frameworks that is necessary to combat some of these issues that we are facing. So as we join as PNAfrica here today to reflect on what the year has looked like, on what the findings have been, and what some of the interventions that have perhaps been put in place since the index was released last year. We're also looking forward to learning how we can adopt the best practices that will be shared in this meeting to ensure that this is a practice that is entrenched within the continent, and that civil society organizations and parliamentary monitoring organizations generally can work together with their local parliaments to advance openness and accountability, and therefore ensure that citizens are really benefiting and gaining from the aspects of open parliaments. From the presentation here today, I also hope that you will get insights on how technology is helping to advance the issue of legislative openness, and how membership and participation within the open government framework upon which open parliaments are also anchored is really advancing transparency, participation, access, accountability from the parliaments across the continent. So on behalf of Mzalendo Trust is to really reiterate our commitment to this process. We do hope that this is a process that will cascade towards downwards to the rest of the continent. We also hope that it is an exercise that will be taken up by parliaments, not as a tool that spotlights what they are doing right, but as a tool that helps us work together for the common good of our citizens generally. I also wish to take this opportunity to invite the parliamentary monitoring networks from across the continent to really come together as networks and to join the African Parliamentary Monitoring Organizations Network, because this then will provide you with an opportunity where you can learn, you can share your experiences, you can exchange ideas, you can access resources that are being developed, not just by us as partners from the continent, but as you will note from the presentations that are lined up from other partners from across the globe. As I conclude, I would want to thank Sami and his team, but also take this opportunity to thank Maria, who is on the call, for the support that she gave us at ACMO, as we started this conversation last year in Accra. And we have continued with the conversation and look forward to working together with everybody on the call and those not on the call to advance this agenda that we have started.
que nous avons
And I
commencé
hope that
ensemble.
when we meet again on
j'espère
June
que
30th
quand
next year,
on
not
se
saying we won't
retrouve
meet in
en se
between,
rendant que l'année
we'll be
prochaine,
seeing not just the progress that has
on ne
been
verra
made,
pas non
but
seulement
also
le
looking at
progrès, mais on va
the
parler aussi
broader
de
adoption of the index from across the continent. As an institution, we've done
comme
baseline
institution,
assessment for the East
on a
African
fait
continent, and so
l'évaluation de
we are looking forward
base
to partnering with
et
PNAfrica
nous
to roll
espérons
out a broad
avoir aussi partenariat avec le
assessment in
PNAfrica
2024. And we look forward to sharing
pour
with you those
l'évaluation de
findings once we do
2024.
that next year. With those few remarks, it's to welcome you all, wish you fruitful
Alors, avec ces
deliberations,
remarques,
and pray that we will continue working
dire
together.
bienvenue
We'll continue strengthening this
et
community
vous
of
dire
practice
qu'on va
from
continuer à
Africa.
travailler ensemble
We'll continue
pour
partnering with
renforcer
our
le Parlement en
friends from
Afrique,
across the
continuer à
globe,
travailler ensemble
and
avec les
ultimately that
partenaires à
our
travers le
colleagues in
globe
civil society, our citizens in our
et
respective
aussi avec les
countries,
OSP,
and our
les
parliaments
organisations
will
de société
benefit
civile,
immensely from the work that
avec
we
les
do.
citoyens
I thank you. Good afternoon.
et travailler
Thank you.
ensemble. Merci.
Thank you very much,
Bonsoir.
Caroline, for
Merci
the
beaucoup, Caroline.
remarks. We are looking forward to
ces
joining
remarques
hands and learning from each
et
other
nous espérons
as a
nous joindre
network.
avec vous pour apprendre ensemble.
While doing this, we've had immense support from the National Endowments for Democracy.
On a vu beaucoup de support de la Fondation nationale pour la
is the senior
démocratie.
director of the Africa program of
Et
the
nous
National
avons
Endowment for
le directeur
Democracy, NED.
principal.
NED is a publicly funded grant-making organization in Washington, D.C. So since 1988, Dave has been responsible for NED's program to identify and assist hundreds of African NGOs and activists working for democracy, human rights, free press, justice, and peace. This morning or in this event, we are very happy to have Dave share with us some remarks. Dave, if you can hear me,
David Peterson de partager ses remarques avec nous.
Thank you very much, Ben, and
merci beaucoup,
greetings
Ben.
to Caroline and to Sammy
and
all the other participants in this event today. I'm just very honored to be able to participate and very proud that the endowment has been able to support the parliamentary network and some of the other initiatives in Africa, such as Zalendo Trust. I think the work that you've done has been really pioneering in terms of building democratic institutions on the continent. Just over the last few years to see how the parliamentary network has grown and developed. I remember the conversations we were having, during the depths of the pandemic, when this initiative really took off, and it's just so satisfying to see that you are growing, and I'm also very interested in hearing about the index, and learning about the impact that you've actually had. Congratulations on this. We will look forward to continuing our partnership.
Et nous espérons continuer au partenariat.
Thanks very much.
Allez, merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Dave, for
merci beaucoup,
the
David.
remarks. We're grateful for the support from NED. Again, while Caroline was speaking, she mentioned Directorial Legislativo, who has also been very instrumental in supporting us throughout the development of the index. So Maria Baron is the Global Executive Director for Directorial Legislativo. She's also a former co-chair of the Open Government Partnership. Again, Maria and organization have been very, very instrumental throughout the process of developing the Open Parliament Index, with their over a decade of experience in doing same in Latin America. Today, we are happy to have Maria also share with us some few remarks. Maria, if you can hear me, please, shall we take your remarks?
Thank you, Ben.
Merci, Ben.
Thank you for the invitation to be able to give a very short perspective from our part of the world. As you mentioned, and Caroline as well, we have been collaborating for some time now, I think maybe 2 years, a little bit more, starting in the pandemic, and sharing the experience that we've had in Latin America with the launch of the Latin American Network for Legislative Transparency, and then how we built the Latin American Legislative Transparency Index. And I'm very, very happy to see that since the inception of this idea, you have spearheaded together with Caroline this sort of dream that we had at the margins of the pandemic up until today. So you put together a really strong network. We've had the opportunity also to go to Africa to launch it. And also it's 1 year since you've implemented the index with similar but your own methodology. So I'm very, very happy that this initiative and the stream saw the day of light. I'm very, and I have a lot of expectations, because right now, as we speak, in Latin America, we're measuring the 6th round of the Latin American Index. And this means that for us, so we started off in 2012, and we measured it in 2012, 2014, 2016, 2018, in 20 we stopped because of the pandemic, and we measured it in 2021, and today in 2023. So that's 6 measurements, and it's a little bit more than 10 years. So that gives us a lot of data, a lot of ways to see how our parliaments respond, not only to the index, but we can also see behind the data, and we can see which are the parties that advance more on transparency, and the ones that not so much, or what years, or what are the initiatives that we do that they are more receptive to. But I can say today that with the index and with the network behind and well established in Latin America, that we can have sort of 2 sides of the same coin. One, which we hadn't thought of before, is the strong collaboration that we have between organizations. And it's not only that the organizations of the network are interested in their own country, but they're interested in the whole region. And so if something happens in Peru, we're all there to help the organizations that are in Peru. If something happens in the Dominican Republic as well. So I think it's a really strong network to collaborate against the democratic backlash that we're living, and I'm sure you're having that same experience in Africa as well. And also the evolution between each country. So in not only the measurement that we see as a general region, but also the ups and downs that each country can live throughout these 10 years. And that's really interesting to see, and to sort of help us to elaborate better strategies. And so I'm here very happy, and I have a lot of expectations to what we can discuss today, and to hear the interesting discussions that we'll have right now. And I think that as from now, we can think together on more collaboration and a lot of comparison from the data that you have and that you will have, and see what are the matches and what are the differences that we have as 2 different parts of the world. We can do a lot of peer exchange, not only organizations, but also with MPs. And I think that could be really, really interesting, because in Latin America, we already have those MPs that have already been evangelized in these issues, and I'm sure you have those in West Africa as well. And also, I think we can choose and select issues that are of interest in both regions and think together how to address them. One last thing before leaving you. It's very interesting this right moment in Latin America, because we are at the margins of starting a review of like a formal review of what we have done. And I think that will allow us a lot of data as well, and we can share it with you so that you don't go through the same mistakes that we have in the past. So I think that could be interesting as well. So thank you a lot. Thanks, Sami, for always being the spearhead, the arrow that allows us to open new pathways. Ben, and untiring collaboration from you. It's very, very interesting and very inspiring. And Caroline, of course, your wisdom and your knowledge is a lot of help in this initiative. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Maria, for the kind words. Indeed,
merci beaucoup, Maria, pour les mots,
pour votre remarque. That in the future, we'll have more collaborations.
Nous aurons plus de collaborations.
Finally, we are going to take the remark from Mr. Tariq Neshnash. Tariq Neshnash is the Senior Regional Coordinator of Africa and the Middle East for the Open Government Partnership, fronting and advocating a lot for OGP in Africa. Mr. Tariq Neshnash, if you can hear me, please give us your remarks.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you for this opportunity, really, to participate in this event. I'd like to start by a basic fundamental information from the OGP perspective. Open governments cannot be realized without parliaments. And throughout OGP's history, like positive action as well as like negative actions of the parliaments have had significant impact on enabling the environments of open governments. And there are today a number of like landmark reforms that can only be delivered, and that are only delivered thanks to the parliaments. We can state like examples of the right to information, beneficial ownership, whistleblower protection, and others. And here I'd like to remind all of us of like 4 areas where parliament engagements are much needed in the open gov space. First, it just like take a legislative action where parliaments can champion open gov values by introducing, reviewing, and ratifying legislation relevant to open governments. As of 2020, approximately 10 to 15% of all OGP commitments required legislative action. Second, parliamentary oversight. Parliaments can hold the executive accountable for open governance reforms and opening up their own oversight processes to public scrutiny. Third, opening up parliamentary processes. Parliaments can adopt open governance principles like transparency, accountability, participation, inclusion in their own parliamentary institution and processes, and have their own open parliaments action plans. And fourth, creating space for dialogue, where parliaments can foster dialogue, and support to advance and institutionalize open government support. And today, open parliament commitments are really growing in OGP, where many parliaments are co-creating their own commitments and own action plans. Moving forward, OGP recently has adopted a new strategy, the 2023-2028 strategy. And one of the main pillars of this strategy is to make open governments central on how all levels and all branches of governments function and deliver on their priorities. And of course, here, parliaments can and hopefully play a key role in this strategy. And we really think that the tools like the index we're presenting today can be key to identify our biggest challenges and find a way to coordinate among ourselves toward these common objectives. I would like to share that OGP platform is ready to help with this mission, whether it is the articulation with national action plans or even co-creating OGP parliamentary action plans. We invite you to use OGP as a platform for this transformation and for action. And please not only use OGP support units, that's the wide network of partners, assemblies, civil society organizations that are here to support each other in this process. I would like to conclude by sharing two coming events. Next month, in July 20th, there will be the Conference of Open Governments in Francophone Africa that will be organized in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire, and one of the important discussions will be around open parliaments in the region. Another important event for this discussion is the Global OGP Summit planned in September 7th in Tallinn, Estonia, and we really hope to continue pushing the open parliament agenda worldwide. Finally, thank you very much for your engagement. I'm really happy to continue collaboration with all of you.
Thank you very much also, Tariq. We are very happy to also continue the engagement, and thank you very much for giving us heads up on the upcoming events of the OGP. And thank you all for our guest speakers who have shared their remarks with us. We are always grateful. We would like to move on with the discussion. And so now we want to have an understanding of what some of the previous actions have been when it comes to the Open Parliament Index. So just to have some background, what has been some of the stories during the process of developing this tool, and even what are we looking at for the next index that we are supposed to develop in 2024. And to do this, we are going to have Mr. Sami Obeng is the Executive Director for Parliamentary Network Africa. He is also the Head of Secretariat for the Africa Parliamentary Monitoring Organizations Network, APMON. Sami, if you can hear me.
Alors Sami, si vous écoutez, vous avez la voix.
Thank you so much, Ben.
Merci beaucoup, Ben.
And good day to all of you from wherever it is that you have joined us today. It's such a great pleasure to be seeing tens of you, in today's meeting. Proud of the meeting. We had registrations. Well over 150 participants registering for today's event, and I can already see that we are hitting about 100 of you joining us from all around the world. And of course, let me extend the sincerest gratitude from us here at Parliamentary Network Africa and the Secretariat of the Africa Parliamentary Monitoring Organizations Network. Extend our sincerest gratitude to our friends, Caroline, to Dave, to Maria, and to Tariq, who have joined us from very different places across the world to have this conversation today. And here from Accra, my mission is very simple, essentially to refresh our memories on what the Open Parliament Index 2022 was like, and also to give us an indication
le rapport de l'OPI
awaits us even as we prepare for the index next year. And so without much ado, I'll go ahead to share just a few slides just to serve as a reminder of all of us on where we have come from. This is a poster just to remind us that on the 20th of July last year, the maiden Africa Open Parliament Index was launched in Accra. And we're all very excited to see that our continent has been able to replicate this very innovative idea, which principally, like Maria had indicated, started in the Latin American region, and we are able to also, have an Open Parliament Index. In this index that was launched last year, the focus was on West Africa. And so here we have the African map that shows all the countries in Africa, but the green area shows the countries in West Africa, which was part of the target countries in measuring the Africa Open Parlement. Out of the 15 countries that West Africa has, 13 of them were the focus for the last index. And this is also because, of course, as we may be aware, Africa has, according to the African Union, 55 member states. In these 55, 15 are based in West Africa. Of course, because of resource constraints and what have you, we thought to pilot the Africa Open Parliament Index from West Africa for a variety of reasons, because West Africa gave us a good opportunity to test this module and to see how well it will work for all of us going forward. Unfortunately, we were able to have the index launch, and the next slide, as I show you, gives an indication of what the results were when the Made in Africa Open Parliament Index played out last year. 13 of the 15 West African countries were measured, because as at the time of measuring, 2 of the countries, Guinea-Conakry and Mali, were undergoing some form of military intervention, for which reason we could not measure their parliament because their parliaments were non-existent. But when we measured, we realized some very interesting dynamics. For example, the very first country on the index in West Africa, which is Ghana, on a vu beaucoup de choses, beaucoup de conclusions. Donc, le premier pays, 63% only. I say only because we expect that our parliament will be more transparent, accountable, and respond to citizens' participation in a higher manner. But to recognize that the best performing parliament in West Africa scored 63% means that there is a lot more work that we all need to collaborate to do in achieving open parliaments on our continent. You would also realize that apart from the first 3 countries on the index, in this case, Ghana, Cape Verde, and Sierra Leone, none of the other countries made the 50% mark. So everybody else fell below average. What it means also is that there is so much that needs to be done in ensuring that we open up the parliaments of Africa, in this case, West Africa. But I'm sure that this paints a picture of the state of open parliament on our continent generally. And so, recognizing the results of this Made in Africa Open Parliament Index, PNAfrica set out to do a few things. And of course, today it's just to be able to recount. And so I'm not going to bore you with the further details of the index. But for those of you who are interested in having, who may not have seen the index 1 year down the line, you may want to connect to this link, www.parliamentafrica.com/OPI, where you can be able to download the index in English, in French, and in Portuguese, so that irrespective of the country, the language that you can relate with, you can be able to see the methodology, the findings, the recommendations, and all that you need to know about this Africa Open Parliament. Having said this now, these slides were just simply to help refresh our memories on how the index played out. So at this point, having shared with you what the results of the index were as at last year when it was launched, let me now go beyond the maiden OPI and talk a little bit also about what the expectations are for the next Open Parliament Index. First of all, it is instructive to note that the Maiden Open Parliament Index received a lot of positive feedback from the 13 countries that were measured. In fact, many of the parliaments, as we would learn from the panel discussion that we are about to listen to, received this in different forms and ways. We're happy to note that in some of the parliaments, the index was discussed on the floor of Parliament. So members of Parliament took time to discuss their country's performance in the index, and in many cases pledged their willingness to do more so that in the next index they can perform better. In some of the other countries, there were press releases, press conferences, speeches by high-powered, high-level officials of Parliament, including speakers of Parliament, who cited the results of the Open Parliament Index, their country's performance, and what they hope to do going forward. Many of the countries actually challenged themselves to do better, while those at the top also said they were going to remain at the top. On the OPI link that I shared earlier, that we saw so many downloads from across the world, indicating that people were genuinely interested in the OPI. This also afforded us the opportunity to not only learn from Maria and the folks at Directorio Legislativo or the folks in Latin America, but also to share our own experiences here in Africa across the world. And so we had the opportunity to share the OPI's results and the lessons and experiences in Asia, in the Balkans region, in Europe, at the World Forum for Democracy, among many others. The index taught us a lot of interesting lessons, the 2022 index. The first was that it was not flawless. There certainly were ways and areas that, patrons, various parliaments, civil society identify that will need improvement. So this constructive feedback that we got from our partners will be certainly factored into developing the next index, because as you are aware, the Open Parliament Index is supposed to be released once every 2 years. Again, we saw the willingness existing for parliaments and civil society organizations to collaborate so that they can do better in the next index in 2024. Proud to embarking on this journey, we were not too sure how parliaments were going to embrace this and whether this was going to lead to any better collaboration and was going to be impactful, although we were optimistic. But we must say that over the last 1 year, it has proven to be a very great initiative. Thanks to Dave and the team at the National Endowment for Democracy, we have also done a few other things beyond launching the index. In 6 countries, specifically Niger, Nigeria, Liberia, Cote d'Ivoire, Togo, and Benin, we have provided sub-grants to the network of parliamentary monitoring organizations to be able to engage their national parliament to ensure that civil society and parliaments can co-create open parliament actions to do better in the upcoming index so we can see improvement. In Ghana, in Sierra Leone, and in the Gambia, PNAfrica, because of our direct presence in these countries, we're also able to embark on a couple of interventions in these countries, all aimed at supporting civil society and parliament to improve on their score. In Lusophone West Africa, specifically Cape Verde and Guinea-Bissau, we have recently engaged with partners there to help strengthen the coalition of civil society organizations that engages with their national parliament. We have also realized that the OPI has served as a source of data for purposes of comparative future research. We have seen people discuss how the OPI results, the Open Parliament Index results, measures with the level of democracy in the countries, measures with the level of civic freedom in the various countries, measures with the level of press freedom, and also how the Open Parliament Index compares with the typology of parliaments that we have across the various countries. This has served as a quality baseline to aid in various parliamentary strengthening programs, projects, and proposals. Because prior to the launch of the index, we're only able to say that this parliament is open, that one is not too open, but there was no clear baseline to help us to be able to show that this is the level of openness and this is the area that has the various gaps. And so we are happy that various parliamentary monitoring organizations have been strengthened and encouraged through this index. Parliaments have been encouraged to take up various activities in their respective parliaments to make for a better index result in 2024 and beyond. But we also realized that there was quite a lack of understanding of open governance generally, an open parliament specifically many parliaments. And this was quite a worrying trend. But we are seeing a lot of wave moving around where people are getting to imbibe. And so with a meeting like this, where we have partners, development partners, colleagues from the OGP, colleagues from NED, the National Democratic Institute, the IRI, the WFDs, the Parliamentary Center and the likes, who have, in one way or the other, engaged with us around these conversations. It is important that we strengthen the effort, work together to strengthen the effort in improving the level of understanding and uptake of open governance and open parliament in the various West African countries. For example, we've seen a very beautiful idea innovated in Morocco, where documents have been developed to talk about open parliament and what it means, and has been shared with members of parliament in the Moroccan parliament. We're looking forward to working with the folks in Morocco, Tariq and the team at the OGP and other stakeholders to ensure that we can have some of these materials also to help in the capacity building of parliamentarians across Africa. So going into Index 2024, what are we to expect? Because the Index 2022 only focused on West Africa, we've had colleagues from across the various parts, regions in Africa, calling on us to also include those regions. Of course, resource constraints were the reasons why we only had to do West Africa. But we are happy to note that going forward and counting on the continuous support of the National Endowment for Democracy and the folks with the Africa Office, Dave and Co., we're hoping that we can be able to expand the 2024 index beyond West Africa. So working with our colleagues at Nezalendo, who have started some great work in the East African region, and also the possibility of adding the Southern African region, we are hopeful that the 2024 Open Parliament Index will cover not only 25% of African countries, as was the case in the 2022 index, but will move beyond 50% of African countries, so that together with better resources, we can be able to also venture into the Northern African space and then the Central African space. And we hope that our partners will be able to come along and join us and support us in this endeavor. We're hoping that the next Open Parliament Index will measure the level of parliamentary openness as at the close of 2023 from these various countries in West Africa, in East Africa, and possibly in the Southern African region. It will be an intense measurement using improved methodology, using data, facts, and figures gleaned from parliaments themselves, gleaned from civil society in the various countries, gleaned from the media and other sources to work within the period of January and June 2024 to ensure that by same time next year, on World Parliament Day, as we are actually observing today, we will be able to launch the second Africa Open Parliament Index, possibly at a conference of African Parliamentary Monitoring Organizations Network. And again, for our partners who have joined us, the Network of African Parliamentary Monitoring Organizations is seeking to be able to start its annual conferences, which brings together civil society from across the continent to talk about parliament and parliamentary engagement, on the back of which we'll be launching these indices. And we are still looking forward to mobilizing resources to be able to have this work go on. We are hoping that in the next index, we'll also be able to provide a menu of options to various countries on some of the areas that they are lacking in, what other countries are doing in these areas, and how they can emulate some of these examples. How they emulate some of these examples, thinking locally, but of course, taking experiences from the global perspective. Having said this, and as I bring my presentation to an end, we see that there is a big appetite for civil society collaborating with Parliament to co-create open Parliament reforms. And we have seen this in West Africa over the last 1 year. In fact, when the panel presents, we'll see some of the innovative ideas that have actually come up, and some of the things that we thought were even impossible, which we are seeing parliaments do with civil society. The index has helped to strengthen the African Parliamentary Monitoring Organizations Network. The index has helped to also bring the angle of the media through our Africa Parliamentary Press Network. And we have also seen a lot of interest from the ECOWAS Parliament and the Pan-African Parliament in this regard. These are all emerging areas, developing the network of parliamentary monitoring organizations, developing the network of journalists, working with the ECOWAS Parliament and the Pan-African Parliament, as well as the other sub-regional parliaments in East Africa, Southern Africa, and the likes, are emerging areas that we can all work together to venture into. And we call on our development partners, colleagues from civil society to work with us in this regard. On that note, let me thank you all very, very much for making time to join us in today's event. I'm happy to note that almost about 100 people have made time to join us today. And I'm looking forward to an exciting conversation on the panel to see how things go and how things have panned out in the various countries. Over to you, Ben. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Sami, for the very insightful presentation.
Merci beaucoup, Sami, pour votre présentation.
The steps, the actions, and some of the things that were done, and even the results that were launched, or the reports of the OPI, and also looking into the next OPI, which will be launched in 2024. Thank you very much. Just as Sami mentioned, the index report was received by several parliaments in West Africa, giving different or various reactions to the results, their results, and even promising, assuring that they are going to work with the PMOs to improve in the next index. At this point, we would like to have a panel discussion, and so very soon we'll be moving into that. But before that, we would again crave your indulgence to get you to tell us in one word how you would describe your parliament. And so you would see a Mentimeter link shared in the chat box. A Mentimeter link will be shared in the chat box. You would see an accompanying passcode. You copy the passcode, you click on the Mentimeter link. It will open a portal where you can input the passcode and then answer the question you see. Describe your parliament using one word. We want to see how you describe your parliament. It will be very interesting to know how you will.
Ce sera très intéressant de savoir comment vous allez utiliser une minute pour
in the chat box, you would see the Mentimeter
Donc, dans la zone de commentaires, vous avez
le
lien de Mentimeter
et
vous avez aussi le code qui est là. Vous cliquez sur ça et vous répondez à la question.
It will take you to a portal or a website where you can input the code. And then it will open a question. The question will ask you to describe your parliament using one word.
Et vous verrez une question qui vous
demandera
d'écrire vos parlements
partners or our guests are describing their parliaments. Emerging parliaments, participatory parliaments, progressive, opaque, work in progress, parliaments, ambitious parliaments. Wow, that's interesting to know. We are still hoping to hear from the rest of you who haven't yet done that. Just click on the link. You input the code.
Alors, ceux qui ne l'ont pas encore fait, vous allez cliquer sur le lien et vous allez décrire vos parlements en utilisant un mot.
Ineffective, parliaments,
inefficace,
contentious parliaments,
contentieux, parlement contentieux,
strong parliaments,
parlement fort,
and use the next few seconds to finish up. Dependent parliaments,
parlement dépendant,
not accountable parliaments, weak parliaments,
parlement non responsable, parlement faible,
unfriendly parliaments. Okay, thank you very much for describing your parliament using the various words.
Merci
it's interesting to know how
parlement.
you think or what you think about your parliament. Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup.
At this moment, we'd like to move into the panel discussion.
Nous allons aller
so
au
this is
niveau
going to be
du
a
panel de
discussion where
discussion.
we hear from our partners in country, in West Africa.
Nous allons entendre nos partenaires
work with
des pays de l'Afrique de l'Ouest.
See how best they can improve the situation using the index. A lot of efforts, as Sami mentioned, has gone on, right from the side of the PMO networks and also on the side of Parliament. So
du côté des
move into this discussion where my colleague Cynthia Jujo, who is a senior programs officer, would moderate this.
Cynthia Jujo,
Cynthia,
qui est chargée du programme principal,
please take over.
Sur la modératrice. Cynthia.
Right. Thank you, Ben, for that presentation.
Ben, pour la présentation.
I would be the one moderating this session.
C'est moi la modératrice
The session will be in two
de la
folds.
session. La session
We
sera en
have
deux.
the anglophone panel.
Nous avons le panel anglophone
panel.
et nous avons le panel francophone.
I'll be starting with the francophone panel, and
Je
for
vais
that
commencer avec
reason, I'll be switching to French. And
le panel
if you want to listen in the
francophone.
English, please click on the interpretation button.
Alors, si vous l'écoutez en anglais,
for
vous
English, so that you can
choisissez
listen in
l'option
on the
anglais.
discussions. Without much ado,
Alors, je vais
yes.
commencer.
Donc, bonjour à tous.
So, good morning, everybody.
C'est moi, Cynthia, qui sera votre modératrice pour cette session.
Be the moderator for this session.
C'est la discussion
ou
bien les roundtables. Et on va commencer
It's going to be a roundtable
par
discussion.
le pays francophone.
We're beginning with the francophone countries.
Tout d'abord de présenter nos panélistes. Nous avons ici des représentants du Parlement
we have here
du Niger.
representatives from Benin and Niger.
Nous avons l'honorable Aladatine Jean-Baptiste,
from Benin Parliament,
qui est le président de la Commission des lois de l'administration
of the Committee on Laws, Administration and Human
Pour le
Rights.
Niger, nous avons l'honorable Alio Namata, qui est également président du réseau des parlementaires pour la promotion de la gouvernance et la lutte contre la corruption, et il est aussi le secrétaire parlementaire.
And he's also secretary, the parliamentary secretary.
Le réseau des organisations de suivi parlementaires,
and for the PMOs network,
qui ont été créés, sont coordonnés et représentés par nos partenaires qui font partie du panel. Pour représenter le réseau OSP Benin, nous avons Madame
Benin, we have Madame
qui est aussi la
Blanche,
présidente du conseil
and who is chairperson of the board
des
of
Social Watch
directors,
Benin.
Social Watch Benin.
Nous avons Monsieur Omaru Adamu, qui est le coordinateur national du réseau nigérien anticorruption. Le troisième, sur la liste, c'est Monsieur Kafalo Segoba Siliwe, directeur exécutif du Centre de recherche et de formation sur le développement intégré, CREVDIS, qui est situé en Côte d'Ivoire. Enfin,
from Center for Research and Training in Integrated Development.
Bakou Roger, coordinateur du programme régional pour l'Afrique, le collectif des associations contre l'impunité au Togo. CACSIT. Alors,
who is the collective
on va commencer par le
the Association Against Impunity
Niger.
in Togo.
Et la première question s'adresse à la fois au Parlement et aussi le réseau. Alors, je commence.
And the PMOs.
Nous voulons savoir
and you want to know,
si vous êtes là et vous m'attendez. Nous voulons savoir comment votre Parlement a-t-il reçu les informations sur l'indice du Parlement ouvert et quelles sont été les actions immédiates prises à cet égard. Ça peut être les déclarations de presse, les discussions au sein du Parlement, inclusion dans les discours,
inclusion and speakers official speeches, many others.
Monsieur Alio Namata, l'honorable, s'il vous plaît, vous avez la parole.
You have the.
Bonjour madame, merci beaucoup. Je commence par m'excuser. Allô, vous m'entendez?
Thank you,
oui,
madam. Thank you.
On vous attend.
Vous m'entendez?
Oui,
merci beaucoup. Je commence par présenter mes excuses parce que
I want to start with apologizing.
Je commencer plutôt avec le panel. Et je vais quitter malheureusement, mais je vais répondre quand même à cette question.
I didn't start early, but I'm going to answer this question.
J'avais annoncé ça dans un message que j'avais envoyé il y a 20 minutes. Pour dire que je dois. Oui. Donc, oui, comment on a reçu l'information
au
niveau du Parlement nigérien? En réalité, cette information, nous l'avons reçue à travers le collectif de la société civile, qui est représenté ici, le RENAC, et à travers lequel on a échangé, et on a tenu une journée de discussion sur l'indice du Parlement ouvert, avec, dans un premier temps, les membres du réseau parlementaire pour la bonne gouvernance et la lutte contre la corruption. Donc, il y avait une dizaine de parlementaires qui étaient dans cette discussion, en plus
MPs that were present.
De la société civile. Et à l'issue un peu de décision, l'idée c'était de présenter l'initiative et d'échanger pour que les membres du Parlement contribuent, n'est-ce pas,
so that members of Parliament could contribute
l'indice,
and to evaluate the index
de notre Parlement.
And to appreciate
donc, on a mis en place un comité composé d'une dizaine de membres, dont 3 membres justement du Parlement. Et un plan d'action a été mis en place pour accompagner
an action plan that was put in place
et d'influence au niveau du Parlement pour renforcer un peu les points faibles que nous avons identifiés.
To reinforce the weak points.
Merci, madame.
Merci aussi.
Thank you.
Et vous êtes excusé. Oui, je comprends bien la situation.
Merci.
Monsieur Adamou, êtes-vous là? Est-ce que vous pouvez prendre la même question?
Monsieur Adamou,
comment votre Parlement a-t-il reçu les informations? Et est-ce qu'il y a une autre chose, à part de ce que l'honorable a dit?
Is there any other thing apart from what the honorable has said?
Merci beaucoup. Je pense que l'honorable a presque dit, parce que en réalité, comme il a dit, il y avait un plan d'action qui a été élaboré, donc un travail que nous devons faire ensemble. C'est un comité quand même composé de la société civile.
That included, the civil societies. Sorry, I'm getting some network issues here. My apologies, I'm unable to hear the speaker.
Non seulement avec les commissions parlementaires, et aussi avec du Parlement, et en plus de ça, le réseau que Alio dirige, parce que
so we work with Parliament and with the network that Roger leads.
Compose aussi à peu près 109 parlementaires. Donc, c'est quand même le secrétariat général et même le président
and
du
even the
Parlement
president of Parliament, the Speaker of Parliament, was part of that discussion.
Merci beaucoup. Donc, pour vous, la question, c'est quels sont les principaux enseignants tirés de l'engagement avec le Parlement, de la mise en œuvre des recommandations depuis la publication de l'indice du Parlement ouvert, et comment ces enseignants peuvent-ils éclairer l'élaboration du prochain indice 2024 et contribuer à des progrès durables en matière d'ouverture parlementaire?
Ok, merci. Pour quand même les enseignements tirés, la première présentation, non seulement au niveau de la société civile, au niveau des médias, au niveau
the lessons that we've had
nous nous sommes rendus
from
compte
the first presentation that we had,
renforcer le processus pour que dans un premier temps, tout ce qui est lacune, comme l'a dit l'honorable, qui a été identifié dans un premier temps, comment faire en sorte que les acteurs de la société civile et les parlementaires puissent travailler
ensure
ensemble
that the actors,
pour y remédier, pour que
society
dans
actors,
le prochain OPI, que quand même le pays soit bien placé en termes d'indice de Parlement ouvert. Et deuxième chose,
decided to ensure
de faire
that
en
the
sorte
country
que
is
lors du
put
prochain
at the right
indice,
place to ensure that we do better
quand même des questionnaires
next in our next the next index.
Où on aura, même au sein du Parlement, plusieurs groupes qui vont essayer quand même de pouvoir répondre.
We've talked
et ce qui nous
about
permettrait
a parliament will have
des avis un peu qui ne sont pas les mêmes en réalité, au lieu que ce soit le Parlement en tant que structure qui répond, vous mieux mettre l'indice à la disposition, le questionnaire à la disposition des parlementaires pour que chaque groupe parlementaire puisse répondre en fonction des réalités qu'ils connaissent au sein du Parlement. Deuxième chose, c'est de vraiment faire en sorte que d'abord la société civile elle-même, certes on a eu à faire des activités, mais quand même de pouvoir renforcer les capacités de la société civile sur le suivi parlementaire. Et je me rappelle lors de l'atelier, l'honorable disait que c'est bien, c'est maintenant, on voit que eux qui font le suivi de l'action gouvernementale, aujourd'hui, il y a des acteurs qui les suivent. Donc, ça veut dire que déjà, ça fait en sorte que les honorables savent que déjà il y a aujourd'hui un réseau ou des organisations de la société civile qui est en train de suivre la performance du
the honorable knows that today we have a network of civil society organizations that are working, that are measuring the impact and the performance of Parliament.
Et le fait de faire en sorte que
and the people
au sein de ce Parlement, lors des rencontres, il y a, et quand on regarde même pour composer le comité de suivi, de mise en œuvre des recommandations des recommandations non seulement de l'indice, mais aussi des recommandations ici de l'atelier d'échange que nous avons organisé avec les parlementaires.
And the other people ensures that all the recommendations that have been put in the index, are implemented.
Le bureau de l'Assemblée dans son ensemble puisse vraiment comprendre ce qui se passe, et aussi on avait demandé aussi le renforcement des capacités de la direction de la communication.
We've also asked to build
ça nous a permis de comprendre quand même il y a certaines choses en réalité qui sont là, qui sont disponibles, certaines informations qui peuvent être mises à la disposition non seulement des populations nigériennes,
can be made available to not only the Nigerian citizens.
Communication ne suivait pas, et qu'il y a moins de publications, même certains projets de loi.
And we've also seen that we have less publications, not only on the issue of law.
Et même quand vous regardez la liste des parlementaires et tous ceux qui s'en sont, le groupe parlementaire et autres, ne sont pas à jour sur le site. Donc il y a tellement de
and even when you see some of the MPs, they're not up to date.
Et nous avons vraiment demandé de voir dans quelle possibilité nous allons travailler avec le secrétariat général
with the General Secretary
du Parlement. Et dernièrement, on a tenu une réunion avec l'honorable.
And we also had a meeting with
où on a demandé aussi de voir avec les comités institutionnels et aussi en réalité la direction de la communication et le directeur de cabinet du président de l'Assemblée nationale pour renforcer ces questions-là au sein du
Parlement.
D'accord. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Adamou.
The network wasn't that clear, had problems.
C'est à vous, l'honorable Aladatchen Jean-Baptiste. C'est la même question, mais je vais dire ça encore. Comment votre Parlement a-t-il reçu les informations sur l'indice du Parlement ouvert?
How did the Parliament receive the news on the Open Parliament Index? And what were some of the immediate actions that were taken in that regard? And as I said, it could be press statement, discussions on the Parliament, inclusion of speakers, official speeches.
Maintenant, nous sommes à monsieur, ou bien l'ordinateur.
We're with
Merci.
Oui, c'est à vous. Vous
Merci.
avez la...
Donc, Jean-Baptiste Orden.
With
je
Baptiste.
Saluer le panel.
Thank you. And I want to thank the panel and all those online participants. A lot of
de l'Assemblée nationale du Bénin
qui
se sont en ligne. Alors, l'Assemblée nationale du Bénin a été tenue informée de l'index du Parlement ouvert à l'occasion d'une audience que le président de l'Assemblée nationale a accordée à une délégation du réseau parlementaire d'Afrique. Ça a été à la demande de Social Watch Bénin, qui est un réseau d'ONG qui travaille donc dans les secteurs de la bonne gouvernance et de la transparence. Donc, il faut ajouter que le Parlement du Bénin a été depuis longtemps un peu sensible d'accord à l'ouverture. Suite à cette audience, le président de l'Assemblée nationale a désigné des cadres de l'administration qui ont participé après à un séminaire conjointement organisé par Social Watch et le réseau parlementaire d'Afrique pour mieux comprendre le programme sur l'index du Parlement ouvert. C'est après cela que le Parlement du Bénin est rentré donc dans le processus d'évaluation avec des cadres qui ont été désignés pour vraiment informer de ce qui se fait au Bénin dans le sens de l'ouverture et a répondu au questionnaire et a participé à l'évaluation. C'est bien après cela qu'à travers les discours du président de l'Assemblée nationale et en plénière de l'Assemblée nationale, les résultats ont été annoncés et beaucoup de députés ont su qu'il y avait une telle évaluation et la place occupée par le Bénin a été annoncée en plénière et à l'occasion de beaucoup de discours tenus par le président de l'Assemblée nationale.
In that speech that was given by the Speaker of Parliament.
Merci beaucoup. La deuxième question, c'est le réseau parlementaire d'Afrique et le réseau des organisations de suivi parlementaire ont lancé l'indice du Parlement ouvert.
Network Africa and the Africa PMO's network launched the Open Parliament Index in June 2022 to assess the level of openness across parliaments in West Africa.
Dans les pays sélectionnés pour travailler avec les parlements afin de mettre en place des réformes et des actions visant à renforcer l'ouverture parlementaire. Après avoir reçu les subventions en 2022, comment le Parlement, ça c'est votre Parlement, a-t-il intégré les conclusions et les recommandations de l'indice du Parlement ouvert de l'Afrique dans ses efforts de réforme? Et pouvez-vous
provide specific examples of implemented reforms, steps towards such reforms, and their impact on parliamentary openness?
D'accord. Je peux y aller?
Oui, vous pouvez.
D'accord. D'abord, l'Assemblée nationale du Bénin n'a pas reçu de subvention, peut-être la société civile, mais nous n'avons pas. Voilà. L'Assemblée nationale n'a pas reçu de subvention relative dans le cadre de l'évaluation de l'indice du Parlement ouvert en 2022. Et il convient de souligner, tel que je l'ai dit, que l'Assemblée nationale était déjà sensible à l'ouverture. Le président de l'Assemblée nationale, qui d'ailleurs a été le président de la législature passée, avait pour point important de son action l'ouverture. Il y a une action que je voudrais souligner au passage qui a été mise en œuvre même avant 2022 et qui continue là. C'est la création de la télévision de l'hémicycle, l'une des rares télévisions de l'Afrique francophone, voire même du monde, à retransmettre en direct les débats parlementaires. Donc, à travers la télé, à travers la radio, et les débats en plénière sont depuis un moment retransmis en direct.
Parliament debate,
voilà, c'est une innovation que nous avons
via TV, radio,
eu avant d'être informés donc de l'indice du Parlement ouvert. Naturellement, cette évaluation a permis à l'Assemblée nationale d'envisager des réformes pour renforcer ce qui se faisait déjà. Au titre de ces réformes envisagées, nous pensons qu'il faut renforcer la médiatisation de la participation des acteurs de la société civile à l'élaboration du budget de l'État, par exemple. Ça se faisait lors de la discussion pour voter le budget de l'État. Nous avions l'habitude d'inviter en plénière les réseaux qui s'occupent des questions de gouvernance à l'Assemblée nationale et qui opinent et disent leur point de vue sur le projet qui a été envoyé. Mais souvent, ce n'est pas très bien médiatisé, bon, les gens ne le savent pas. Donc, nous pensons qu'il faut prendre des mesures pour mieux médiatiser pour améliorer aussi la diffusion sur l'étendue du territoire national d'informations sur les activités parlementaires, sur les décisions prises et les résultats obtenus. Nous sommes conscients que ça ne se fait pas suffisamment et qu'il faut renforcer cela. Et puis utiliser un peu le site web du Parlement pour interagir avec les populations. Vous avez les propositions et les projets de loi qui sont en étude à l'Assemblée nationale à travers donc, ces supports-là peuvent être discutés et il peut y avoir plus de participation
available for more participation
pour l'étude de ces textes de loi-là. Et puis, impliquer davantage la société civile. Nous le faisons déjà parce que, je vous ai dit, pour le budget et même pour l'étude des textes, des lois et consorts, il nous arrive d'inviter les ONG, dont c'est la thématique en commission pour avoir leur avis. Le seul problème, c'est qu'en commission, la société civile ne peut pas participer à nos discussions et participer à nos délibérations. Mais nous est arrivé d'avoir de leur part des mémoires dont nous avons fortement tenu compte.
At the same time,
nous avons même, à l'occasion des plénières, parfois associé la société civile qui, à travers
sometimes during discussions, we bring in the civil society
au Parlement.
To participate.
Je ne sais pas si j'ai répondu à vos questions.
Oui, vous avez bien répondu. Merci, merci beaucoup pour vos réponses. Maintenant, à vous, Madame Senon, pouvez-vous nous faire part d'approches innovantes ou des bonnes pratiques qui se sont avérées efficaces pour renforcer l'ouverture du Parlement dans votre pays? Ça, c'est le Bénin.
So what are the best practices that are promoting open parliament in Benin?
Partager avec nous.
Could you share
Madame
those
Senon, vous avez la parole maintenant.
best practices with us?
Merci beaucoup, Madame la modératrice. Bonjour à
Thank
toutes
you.
et tous.
And
Mes
good day, everybody.
respects honorables à la Dati. Et bonjour aussi aux invités en ligne.
Good morning,
Par
good day
rapport à l'expérience
to the participants
du
online.
Parlement ouvert au Bénin, reconnaissons que
From the
l'audience
experience of
que le président de l'Assemblée nationale a accordée au réseau parlementaire d'Afrique sur la demande de Social Watch Bénin, au cours de cette audience, l'un des résultats phares est l'engagement institutionnel et personnel que le président du Parlement béninois a pris pour davantage d'ouverture de notre Parlement. C'est très important et du coup, la manifestation de cet engagement a suivi parce que séance tenante, il a instruit déjà ses collaborateurs rapprochés qui étaient dans l'audience et d'autres à œuvrer pour l'amélioration, pour sauvegarder ce nouveau partenariat. Et devant nous, il a instruit aussi les services en charge de l'information et de la communication à actualiser et animer de façon continue le site web de l'Assemblée nationale. Comme bonne pratique, avouons-le, en raison du cadre législatif, de l'ouverture de gouvernance de façon générale et en particulier l'engagement du président de l'Assemblée nationale et ces cadres techniques de l'administration qui portent aussi la dynamique d'ouverture parlementaire, nous avons pu renforcer le partenariat entre société civile et l'Assemblée nationale. Je vais parler de renforcer parce que déjà, nous sommes dans un dialogue dans le cadre du suivi budgétaire. Et en dehors de ça, grâce à ce projet de Parlement ouvert, il y a plus de proximité entre la société civile et le Parlement béninois. Donc, nous avons d'abord organisé un atelier de renforcement de capacité d'information sur le projet et de renforcement de capacité qui a permis non seulement aux membres du réseau béninois pour le Parlement ouvert, mais aussi aux deux cadres de l'administration du Parlement béninois qui ont participé à cet atelier d'avoir plus des informations sur la dynamique du Parlement ouvert. Et ça a été le levier qui a permis de booster quand même l'opérationnalisation l'engagement du président de l'Assemblée nationale. Donc, en partenariat avec le Parlement béninois et de façon consensuelle, nous avons élaboré une feuille de route que nous mettons déjà en œuvre par l'activité de Facebook Live dont l'honorable Aladati a parlé tantôt. Nous avons renforcé le dialogue, la proximité, l'offre de redevabilité tout court de l'Assemblée nationale vis-à-vis de ses mandants. Il faut reconnaître aussi que l'engagement du président de l'Assemblée nationale a été soldé par le lancement des services de la télévision, de l'hémicycle et l'élargissement de l'auditoire de la radio de l'hémicycle qui retransmettent en direct sans filtrer les débats parlementaires. C'est à l'actif de l'Assemblée nationale béninoise. En dehors de ça, le Bénin aussi, à travers Social Watch Bénin, qui a le lead du réseau parlementaire de promotion de Parlement ouvert, a entrepris d'autres dialogues société civile, population et le Parlement afin de faire connaître les rôles et responsabilités du deuxième pouvoir de l'État béninois, mais aussi œuvrer pour la participation, renforcer, je vais dire, la participation du public et aussi faire la demande de redevabilité en matière de transparence. Nous sommes aussi dans la dynamique de plaidoyer au fin de l'amélioration du contrôle parlementaire de l'action du gouvernement. Et dans ce sens, nous avons aussi fait le plaidoyer à l'endroit du Parlement afin que le Bénin puisse renouer avec la culture de la participation inclusive du public en matière dans le domaine légistique, qui reconnaît quand même que le Parlement implique les parties prenantes indiquées en amont, donc lors de l'élaboration de l'avant-projet ou de proposition de loi.
D'accord, merci beaucoup. Pouvez-vous nous parler un peu sur l'émission radio avec vos députés? Je sais qu'il y a quelque chose comme ça qui est en train de passer. Est-ce que vous pouvez nous parler sur ça un peu?
Can you talk about, the radio transmissions that we have?
Le lundi prochain, nous allons réaliser.
Next Monday, we will.
La seconde Facebook Live. Et
we'll have the second Facebook Live.
Les points d'attention, les sujets qui peuvent faire objet d'interpellations, de questions écrites, de questions orales avec ou sans des, et pourquoi pas d'enquête parlementaire. Donc, c'est sur ces points d'attention que nous allons discuter le lundi prochain. Et après, dans la suite de la mise en œuvre de notre feuille de route, nous allons commencer à animer des débats radiophoniques qui seront animés par nos honorables députés. Et le comble, c'est quoi? L'Assemblée nationale a mis à disposition une salle intelligente, qui va abriter ces activités et aussi la connexion entre Social Watch Bénin, donc le réseau parlementaire, le réseau de suivi parlementaire du Bénin, avec la radio. Il y aura une connexion sur le site de la radio, la télévision et autres pour ratisser large en matière de participation inclusive du public.
Will all work together to ensure that they work towards the participation,
nous irons
the inclusive participation of the public in parliamentary affairs.
Et pour vous, la question c'est quels sont certains des défis communs racontés par votre réseau dans leur effort pour améliorer la transparence, la responsabilité et la participation?
What are some of the challenges that
peuvent-ils être relevés pour améliorer l'efficacité des réformes parlementaires? Monsieur Roger, est-ce que vous êtes là?
Oui, merci beaucoup.
Merci.
OK. Bon, au Togo, le défi majeur que nous avons, c'est vraiment
the major challenge that we had.
La possibilité ou bien la collaboration officielle entre le Parlement et les OSC, justement pour améliorer la transparence ou l'ouverture parlementaire. Je dirais que c'est le premier défi que nous avons, c'est-à-dire qu'à ce jour, nous avons des rencontres avec des députés, nous avons multiplié les rencontres avec les députés. Nous avons aussi réussi à créer un réseau d'organisations Parlement ouvert au Togo, et ce réseau est déjà actif. Actuellement même, nous avons certaines organisations qui sont en train de faire le monitoring au niveau de... Puisque l'Assemblée nationale est en session, donc on a des organisations qui sont en train de faire le monitoring au niveau justement de cette session-là. Mais de façon officielle, nous ne sommes pas encore arrivés à établir une collaboration avec l'institution en elle-même. Donc aujourd'hui, c'est le premier défi au niveau du Togo. Et un autre défi aussi, c'est de susciter davantage l'intérêt des populations pour justement suivre l'action des parlementaires. Je dirais que le concept du Parlement ouvert, c'est un concept assez nouveau au Togo, tant pour, je dirais, tant pour les organisations de la société civile que même pour les parlementaires. Donc, nous avons eu un atelier avec PNAfrica en 2022. Et justement, c'est après cet atelier-là même que le réseau, la volonté de se constituer un réseau pour travailler en faveur d'une meilleure ouverture parlementaire au Togo, que cette volonté-là a surgi. Donc, nous sommes encore en train de mettre en place petit à petit cette collaboration avec notre Parlement. Donc, je dirais que concrètement, ce sont les deux défis majeurs que nous avons.
Merci aussi, M. Roger. La même question pour vous, M. Siloué. Je vais poser la question une fois encore. Quels sont certains défis
Le frère, non, j'ai...
Est-ce que je peux parler? OK. Pour vous, Monsieur Siloué, quels sont certains des défis communs rencontrés par le réseau dans leur effort pour améliorer la transparence, la responsabilité et la participation civique? Et comment ces défis peuvent-ils être relevés pour améliorer l'efficacité des réformes parlementaires? Est-ce que vous m'attendez, s'il vous plaît, Monsieur Siloué?
Mr. Siloué, can you hear us?
Vous m'entendez?
Oui, il est là. Vous avez la parole.
D'accord.
Oui.
D'accord. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you.
Madame Dudio. Ce que je voudrais dire, c'est que nous avons proposé un projet à PNAfrica qui a été lancé, qui est intitulé justement Promotion de l'indice du Parlement ouvert en Côte d'Ivoire. Donc, nous avons commencé la mise en œuvre de ce projet-là au mois de mai, fin mai plus précisément. Et c'est dans le déroulement de ce projet-là que nous avons inscrit les activités de promotion, de sensibilisation par rapport à l'indice du Parlement ouvert. Il faut dire que lors de la première activité de ce projet, nous avons organisé un atelier de formation au cours duquel nous avons bénéficié de la communication de PNAfrica qui nous a rafraîchi un peu la mémoire sur les objectifs, les tenants de la notion de Parlement ouvert, ce qui était très important parce que c'est une notion assez nouvelle. Et nous avons par la suite eu le privilège de présentation de 2 communications, une de chaque chambre de notre Parlement. Il faut souligner que notre Parlement est bicaméral depuis 2016. Nous avons l'Assemblée nationale et le Sénat. Donc, nous avons reçu un représentant de l'Assemblée nationale qui est député, qui est aussi président de la commission de suivi des politiques publiques. Et nous avons reçu aussi une communication du directeur, d'un des directeurs du Sénat qui représentait le Sénat sur justement la question de l'ouverture parlementaire. Donc, chacun a fait une présentation au niveau de son institution. Donc, il faut dire que c'était justement pour balayer un peu le terrain, voir ce qui était fait. Et donc, il faut dire que nous, après, à la suite de l'atelier de 2021 où nous avons été édifiés la première fois sur le Parlement ouvert. L'équipe de PNAfrica avec nous avions bénéficié d'une rencontre avec le Parlement. Nous avons été reçus par les parlementaires au niveau de l'Assemblée nationale. Il y avait plusieurs parlementaires, dont plusieurs présidents de commissions permanentes, à qui M. Obeng avait justement présenté l'initiative, présenté ses tenants et ses aboutissants. Et la présentation avait eu beaucoup d'engouement, avait reçu beaucoup d'engouement de la part des parlementaires dans un premier temps. Et ça, c'était avant l'indice du Parlement ouvert, le premier indice du Parlement ouvert. Donc, par la suite, nous avons pu administrer le questionnaire de l'indice et nous avons présenté les résultats. Donc, il s'agit maintenant, à travers le projet que nous sommes en train de mettre en œuvre, de faire la promotion. Et nous avons promis d'aller vers toutes les parties prenantes, pas seulement les parlementaires. Et actuellement, nous sommes au niveau du dispatching des courriers et nous attendons les premières réactions pour pouvoir rencontrer
nous avons
ciblé toutes les parties prenantes, que ce soit les parlementaires eux-mêmes, mais aussi les organisations internationales qui interviennent en Côte d'Ivoire, les organisations de la société civile, les organisations de communication, etc. Donc, c'est vraiment un processus qui prend son envol et peut-être qu'il serait un peu tôt de faire un bilan, à mon sens. Toujours est-il que lors de l'atelier de formation, c'est-à-dire le 24 mai, le représentant de l'Assemblée nationale et le représentant du Sénat nous ont présenté ce qui était déjà fait au niveau de ces deux institutions par rapport à la transparence, par rapport à par rapport aux trois thématiques incluses dans le Parlement ouvert. Donc, c'est ce que je peux dire.
So the president of Senate have already made some presentations regarding the three themes
maintenant, c'est la fin du panel francophone. Donc, je vous remercie pour vos contributions.
So this is the end of this panel discussion. Thank you very much for your suggestions,
et la société civile dans la promotion d'un Parlement ouvert. Nous passons maintenant au panel suivant, qui est le panel anglais.
Panel, which is the English panel.
Yes, so thank you very much. We are now going to move to our next panel, which is the
Merci beaucoup.
English
Allons aller
and for the English panel, we
qui sera le panel anglophone.
These countries represented. We have Sierra Leone, we have Ghana.
Dans ce panel, nous avons.
Permit me to introduce our panelists.
Permettez-moi d'introduire
from Ghana, that is from the Parliament of Ghana, we have Lawyer Prosper Hoitu, who is the Senior Research Officer at the Office of the Speaker. We also have in our midst Mr. Gilbert Bosco Nabe, the Director of the Department of Programs, Research and Partnership from the Parliament of Sierra Leone.
Du recherche de partenariat du Sierra Leone.
We also have in our midst a very instrumental funder, that is WFD. They have been very instrumental in supporting the PMO network in Sierra Leone. And today we are happy to have them, to have the country director of WFD, that is Reverend.
Nous avons aussi le directeur
to speak on behalf of the PMO network
de la Fondation Démocratie.
And so I'm happy to have all of you here. I think we'll start once again with the Parliament.
Avec
so,
la discussion.
The very first question
la question
goes to our parliamentarians or the parliamentary reps over here.
Le représentant du Parlement.
So the first question, how did your parliament receive the news on the Open Parliament Index, and what were some of the immediate actions that were taken in that regard? This could be press statements, discussions on the floor of Parliament, inclusion in speakers' official speeches, anything in that regard. So I'll give you the platform now to speak. Lawyer
la plateforme de parler.
Please, you have the chance to speak. Thank you.
L'avocat prospère.
Thank you very much, and greetings to everyone. I first of all want to commend PNAfrica and Africa PMO's network for such a great initiative, and also your continuous effort in ensuring that our parliaments are open and they continue to share information and also engage with the public. Yes, the news came to us as such a great news. It came with such excitement. And there was a lot of media coverage and publicity about the news, particularly because Ghana was rated the first country in terms of openness. And following that, there have been several engagements as well. Even though it came with excitement, it also presented some point of reflection on what we are doing right as Parliament and what we need to do to improve, because even though the scores, we were first, the scores show that there's more room for improvement in many respects. So much as it was exciting, there was also reflection on the need for improvement. The Right Honorable Speaker made statements where he acknowledged the recognition that Ghana's Parliament gained, but also there was a whole discussion on the floor of Parliament where members contributed in diverse ways and made references to various initiatives that may have contributed to the feats that Ghana achieved. References were made to certain initiatives like the Speakers Roundtable discussions with CSOs and other stakeholders, public fora that we have held in various parts of the country, as well as the regular meetings that the Right Honorable Speaker, as well as the leadership of Parliament have been holding with CSOs to first update them on certain developments in Parliament, and also to afford CSO the opportunity to share their concerns and observations with Parliament. So briefly, that's what I would say about how we received the news and what actions have been taken since then.
All right, thank you very much for that generous response. I think the same question will be taken by Mr. Gilbert.
La même question
if
sera
he's here with
prise par
us.
monsieur.
Can you please answer that question?
Yeah, thank you very much, Cynthia.
Monsieur Gilbert.
And
Merci beaucoup, Cynthia.
I also want to comment by expressing my sincere thanks and appreciation to PNAfrica for this very great and wonderful initiative.
Je vous remercie pour ce
it's
que vous
something
faites
that
pour
I'm sure will
l'initiative.
provide some very great impetus for Parliament to see how we could improve our openness as we get along. Well, the Parliament of Sierra Leone, we received the news of our position.
Une très belle chose pour le Parlement de savoir ce
index,
qu'il faut faire pour
which is
améliorer.
like we came third in Sierra Leone.
Alors,
And
nous étions
with
le troisième au
some
Sierra Leone.
excitement, because
Et
I
nous
know
étions
that
très contents
before
parce que
this
je
period, that is a
savais
year before the index,
que
the
avant
open
ceci,
parliamentary index,
avant les
was out,
rapports,
there had been like a frosty relationship between Parliament of Sierra Leone and civil society.
il n'avait pas une très belle relation entre les organisations de société civile et le Parlement.
The civil society had even come out with this in a situation. But ever since, after that very bitter and frosty relationship, some of us, of course, were able to push forward to say that it's need for us to see how we could cement the relationship and bridge every gap that had existed between Parliament and civil society. So just after that, we actually signed a communique with the civil societies, 52 civil societies in Sierra Leone. And so our relationship was cemented. We are now working together.
Donc, nos relations a été améliorée.
So therefore,
nous travaillons ensemble.
when the news came, of course, it was discussed in Parliament. The speaker was very much excited about it.
Le président
and I happen to be also the speechwriter for the speaker. So I could still recall that there was a particular engagement the speaker needed to attend. And he personally asked me to ensure that that particular component that has to do with the outcome of the Open Parliament Index report be placed in a speech. So the speaker was excited. It was deliberated and within the confines of Parliament, and there was general excitement amongst the Sierra Leone Parliament to see. We are making some efforts to see how we could open up Parliament. So it was a moment in which even the members of Parliament also discussed it at committee levels. And I also took some time to actually run this through with the management of the parliamentary service within the Parliament of Sierra Leone, because I completed the process on behalf of Parliament. And so we are able to provide some very useful information. So I think that is definitely my response to what was the feeling upon receiving the news, as well as actions taken thereafter. Thank you.
Alors, voici comment nous avons reçu la nouvelle et les actions qui ont été prises après cela.
Mr.
Merci.
I'd like to bring lawyer Prosper Huitu back again.
Alors, je vais
answer a small question for us.
L'avocat.
He's spoken about how the news was received.
Il a parlé de comment la nouvelle a été reçue.
Speaker would like to know what specific reforms have been implemented
les réformes qui ont été mises en œuvre
after they had received this
par le Parlement après avoir reçu
Good, thank you very much. So with such a great news, you need to be careful to work hard in order to maintain your position. Otherwise, when Ghana's parliament drops in the next OPI,
alors,
it
oui,
will
on a
essayé de bien travailler. So two important things happened after the news.
Donc, après
there was actually a special session with the Ghana PMO's network,
avec les
where there was a presentation of the findings from the index. And then secondly, the Right Honorable Speaker commissioned a survey, and the survey was to understand CSO's perception on the work of Parliament and also their challenges. And through that, one thing that stood out as part of the recommendations was that there was the need to mainstream CSO's engagement with Parliament instead of the ad hoc meetings that
Donc, on avait constaté qu'il devait
avoir from that immediately the Right Honorable Speaker directed the establishment of what we call a Citizens Bureau, as a coordinating mechanism of engagement between CSOs and Parliament. So this is an office located in Parliament, which I believe will be inaugurated officially next month.
Un bureau qui est bien sûr au Parlement, qui sera inauguré la semaine prochaine
engagement with Parliament
pour
making sure that
améliorer
things a bit more easier for them, providing access to information from Parliament, generating information, updating our website regularly with public information that will be useful to them. And if CSOs want to conduct any research involving Parliament, this is an office that they could fall on. And Parliament also intends to leverage this relationship with CSOs to promote public education. Because one key challenge that we face is the public inadequate understanding of the work of Parliament. So, and aside the establishment of the Citizens Bureau and all the functions that it's supposed to perform, there has been some reform also at the public affairs section, which includes the establishment of a department with a director responsible for public engagement. And so it tells you that Parliament of Ghana takes the question of public engagement seriously. And then there are also plans to, it's been on the drawing board for some time to establish a radio and a TV station that will also enhance public education.
Ghana's
standing orders, our Parliament standing orders are undergoing review to allow media and public participation in the sittings of parliamentary committees, which we think will be very significant. So these are some of the reforms that are ongoing. And we believe strongly that this, if properly implemented, will open up
les autres membres du
Parlement
Parlement sont en train d'être revus et voici quelques actions, les réformes que le Parlement du Ghana fait.
Diamond Suma, the last question comes to you.
Et
can you share with us some innovative approaches or best practices that have been effective in enhancing open parliament in your country?
Est-ce que vous pouvez partager quelques
thank you so much, Sharon. Thanks to PNAfrica for this. I'm just going to continue from where Gilbert stopped, because we're all walking in the same path for the Parliament of Sierra Leone. So when the news came in that Sierra Leone scored position in the Open Parliament Index, like Gilbert said, there was excitement. It was announced in the world, and Parliament did quarterly and regional review. And of course, this came in the speeches of the Speaker, the Clerk of Parliament. And there is a whole, what I would call, rejuvenation back into the interest of the open government partnership work, of which Parliament is in its second year within the OGP National Action Plan. So there is that whole overhauling. There was the Speaker had called to check on the composition, the board membership, and to know how is it going on. And so it's very special interest and concerns around OGP work in the Parliament. So there was this setup that Gilbert mentioned, the CSO parliamentary network called the PALCISO-net. The Speaker and the Clerk pushed that there should be a physical office space for CSOs in Parliament.
Et le président du Parlement aussi a annoncé qu'il faut avoir un bureau pour les questions de société civile au Parlement.
CSO also had to send a coordinating person within this center, wherein it will be an intermediary between CSO and Parliament to participate in the lawmaking process. Another critical reform that came up is that Sierra Leone decided to give much more attention in OGP, open government work, especially due to this index across. Myself, Sami, and the Speaker, we were in Morocco for the last OGP summit. And in all his speech, I mean, he mentioned PNAfrica, he mentioned the Open Parliament Index and the scores, and he was so excited. And we had other speakers and other players in the room within Global South, while saying, okay, how can we be able to exercise this? So us as development partners in Parliament were to support those reforms to ensure that, okay, Parliament work in close collaboration with citizens through the CSO. So we have a number of trainings, and Parliament is very much more receptive with the work of CSOs.
Alors, on a vu que le Parlement est plus réceptif du travail
So WFD is supporting parliamentary staff and the CSOs to run a course with the University of London on post-legislative scrutiny, which will be rolled out to all committee clerk for the new Parliament, because we just crossed elections. Also in the induction process, yesterday we concluded in the meeting and in the agenda, myself and Gilbert were there. We agreed on the need to open Parliament citizens' view and expectations for the next Parliament. So myself and Gilbert are discussing now. One is
thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Qu'on va inclure la suggestion du public dans le Parlement suivant.
Okay, please. I think it is my internet. You can go ahead. I thought you had finished.
Okay. Yes, I said myself and the team in Parliament, we discussed quite a number of initiatives. One is to get the UNICEF to get citizens for the new Parliament. And we were discussing also on the need to get gender mainstreaming into the conversation, considering the fact that a new gender law has been passed for 30% affirmative actions in Parliament, to give a gender face into citizens' participation in the lawmaking process. And there's this discourse about making OGP Steering Committee a formidable committee in Parliament. So all of these reforms came as a result of the OPI index that was announced last year. So it gives a new meaning, a new attention to OGP in the country, and a new attention to Parliament, thinking about to do a co-creation for Parliament alone, because now we're all embedded in a national action plan. Parliament is also looking forward to get its own its own action plan on OGP. So these are all reforms.
Le Parlement maintenant cherche à avoir
their
propre plan d'action et tout ceci,
it shares so much motivation in the Parliament, knowing that there are people out there who look at what happens, and the credibility of the index is that it's happening at regional level. And PNAfrica has built this niche across the African region on PMO work. And so it came in with so much respect and so much attention. I think Sammy also had a chat with our Speaker of Parliament, wherein he expressed a lot of zest and need to continue towards it. So our look now is that the new Parliament will be able to inherit some of these statutes and push this change and reforms going forward.
Avec le chef, le président du Parlement.
Thank you too very much. So I'd like to thank all of you, the panelists, for your time that you shared with us, the lessons.
Alors, merci pour le temps que vous avez passé dans cette discussion.
How your parliaments have now opened a fiscal office in Parliament to engage or to be the intermediary between CSOs and Parliament, from the Right Honorable Speaker commissioning survey to see how parliaments are being engaged or CSO's engagement with parliaments is going.
Alors, vous avez parlé de l'ouverture du bureau au Parlement pour les sociétés civiles.
As well as
vous avez parlé de
recherche qui va se faire. I think this would also be learned or replicated.
Alors, merci pour tout ce que vous avez partagé et je pense que on a appris beaucoup de choses et ceci va se reproduire dans les autres pays. Alors, merci beaucoup. Je donne la parole à mon collègue.
Thank you very much, Cynthia, for the wonderful moderation.
Merci, Cynthia, pour le travail
que vous avez fait
pour cette discussion.
I had a lot of insights regarding the impact that OPI
à propos de
has so far had, some of the challenges that our panelists have shared. At this moment, we would be wrapping up.
Alors, en ce moment, nous allons essayer de conclure.
And so while we wrap up, we would invite Sammy Obeng,
who
is the executive director for PNAfrica, to give a summary on the discussions that we've had here and what the way forward looks like for Open Parliament, or the discussions around Open Parliament and network building in Africa. But before we do that, while we we'll take another or our final Mentimeter question to answer. We would like to know from you your impression about this event. How would you assess today's event? So please do us the honor by going into the chat box.
Allez, comment est-ce que la question c'est portée sur votre évaluation? Comment est-ce que vous évaluez le programme d'aujourd'hui? Donc, le lien est encore partagé dans la zone de commentaires. Vous cliquez sur le lien et vous répondez à la question. Comment est-ce que vous évaluez?
Feel free also to post in the chat box your comments or any contributions.
Vous pouvez aussi écrire dans la zone de commentaires vos commentaires, vos suggestions, vos recommandations. Nous serons très reconnaissants si vous les partagez, bien sûr, dans la zone de commentaires.
In the chat box, you would see the passcode posted in there.
Dans la zone de commentaires, vous allez voir le lien et aussi le code. Allez, vous cliquez sur le lien, vous allez sur le site Mentimeter et vous y mettez le code et vous verrez la question sur comment est-ce que vous évaluez l'événement et le programme d'aujourd'hui.
Wow, we look forward to welcome
en attendant que nous invitons Sammy Obeng de donner le bilan de la discussion.
Sammy, if you can hear me.
Et les remarques de
Thank you very much, Ben, and thank you to all of our amazing panelists.
Merci
who have shared some very impressive stories with us on how things have gone with their respective parliaments. This has been very inspiring.
Beaucoup de choses sur comment les choses sont passées avec le Parlement.
For all of us at PNAfrica, and I'm very certain that
Et
this would
certain
serve as an inspiration
ceci va servir comme une inspiration
other civil society organizations and parliaments on the call. Cynthia recapped some of the exciting, interesting innovations that have come up within just a year, of launching the index. It means that parliaments are taking these things very, very seriously. So from issues around radio and television programming or media programming, issues around from media programming to issues around civil society continuous engagement with parliaments, high-level meetings and engagements, setting up parliamentary bureaus, setting up the Parliament CSO network in Ghana and Sierra Leone, respectively, reviving the standing or there's high-level meetings between civil society and parliament in the likes of Benin, Niger, workshops, capacity building around the subject matter. All these have been very exciting. And I'm sure that with time, additional resources to these PMOs, to the parliaments, as we have development partners in our midst, we can be able to achieve even better going into the next index. We have also learned on this call the need for further and better exchanges amongst ourselves as countries, amongst ourselves as civil society, amongst ourselves as parliament. Maria spoke about how the Africa network can continue to engage with the Latin American network. Tariq spoke about how the GP obviously provides us a very unique opportunity to co-create interventions and innovations with our respective parliament or between parliament and civil society, and how all of us as civil society, all of us as parliament, all of us as development partners can collaborate and partner to be able to achieve bigger and better things in the area of open parliament reforms. Certainly, the open parliament conversation has taken shape in Africa, the kind of conversation that needs to be supported, the kind of conversation that needs to be advanced, so that we can be able to see parliaments across Africa that are transparent, that are more accountable to the citizenry, and parliaments across Africa that are encouraging citizens participation. And so this has been very encouraging, and I think it will serve as impetus really for us to be able to move solidly into the next OPI development, working with stakeholders to recognize the achievements in this few period and to be able to see how we can consolidate our gains to ensure that we can make bigger and better impact going forward. And with these words, I would like to, on behalf of my very self and the team here at PNAfrica and the network of PMOs, thank you all very much for taking time to join us. Thank our panelists for making time to join us, and to wish you a fruitful continuation even as we move forward. Thank you so very much.
Merci beaucoup.
Wow.
Thank you very much, Sami, for
Merci beaucoup, Sami, pour
ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you making the time to join and staying true till the end. Till we meet again next time to talk about parliaments and open parliaments. My name is Benjamin Okoye. We'll meet another time. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Et on se voit un autre temps. Merci. Au revoir.
Sure.